Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Monday edition of Moohead Radio. I'm your host, a big and furry bovine. We have good help in the panelist area with Brian and Derek Frisbee and Tony the Calf and of course Topo Gigio the Mouse, Bronk. And so we're going to talk a little bit about the Cleveland Browns today, about expectations, about predicted records based upon the release of their schedule, but also some overviews of wisdom that I like to kind of ground Cleveland fans into having, because people tend to be one way or the other. They're either way too negative or way too positive. And, for those who are wondering, yes, I had my second vaccine shot. That happened on Thursday. That's not the reason I didn't do a show on Friday. I could have done a show on Friday. I had no side effects except for sensitivity at the point of injection in my right arm. And that's it. There was just very little to talk about, and I just didn't really want to do it. So I didn't. So today, here I am. But no, I didn't miss anything. So I don't want things to be misconstrued, as happens in the political world that we live in. Your choice to get the vaccine, you can get it walking in virtually anywhere. Local grocery store down here chain is giving out vaccines. I mean, so your choice. You either choose to do it, or you choose not to do it, and you live with the results. And, and again, the smart thing to do, what I would say to people is who are concerned about the government wanting to identify those who have had shots versus those who have not had their vaccinations, I would hope that people who choose not to would share with their closest friends and family the fact that they are not vaccinated, in case somebody amongst their loved ones doesn't want to be potentially affected. But as far as telling the government or telling the public at large, no. I don't think that there's any call for that. And it's no different than a guy who is dying of cancer, who's famous, who doesn't want the world, like David Bowie, to know that they're literally weeks away from croaking, or Freddie Mercury, who was weeks away from croaking from AIDS. Privacy is the business of people. And that's kind of my stance on that. I don't even know anything about Spring Football League. What in the hell is Spring Football League?
In Division III, there were some conferences that chose not to have fall football, but moved their schedule to the spring, and that's where Deion Sanders is coaching.
So like Jackson State.
Yeah.
I know Division I AA just had finished their season up. So
yeah, I'm gonna cream my jeans watching Grambling State going at it.
I thought this was some like Jim Terry Mahoning Valley Hitman shit.
Mahoning Valley Hitman. That's
well, that might be interesting. You might actually see death on the field. So I mean, that's kind of a different possibility. Like I was saying in the beginning of the show, fans tend to get overly optimistic or overly pessimistic when their overly optimistic expectations don't come to pass. Last year, people were really hopeful the Browns were going to be something special. They got out of the field against the Ravens and they got whacked. I mean, and it was a bad enough beating that made you think that, God, what in the hell is going to happen to this team? We didn't know how bad the defense was. At the time, those were our starters, and that's who we were going to play the season with. We didn't know how injuries were going to affect the team. Nobody knows that until it happens. However, there are a lot of fans who were very distraught last year after we got poleaxed by the Ravens. I want to say something now before people get overly excited. I've always said the season is broken down into 4 things. The first 4, the second 4, the third 4, and the fourth 4, and there's going to be one more after that. That's the first 4 games of the year are particularly difficult for teams who are instituting new systems and schemes, who have brought in new coaching staffs and have an abundance of new players on their roster, all of that, it's always difficult to get that off the bat, really getting off to a hot start, unless you're really a molded, formed team. The Cleveland Browns have to go up against the Kansas City Chiefs. And the Kansas City Chiefs are a better football team than the Cleveland Browns last time we saw. A lot of people are saying, yeah, but look at the draft we had. And I'm saying, well, yeah, they've never played a professional football game before, and they've never played together before. Don't judge.
Kansas City had the draft too. They got players in, so there you go.
Here's the thing about the Browns. The Browns did what they had to do, what they were supposed to do. They really drafted and free agency'd their defense up. And there are very few changes offensively to the Cleveland Browns, not ones that are likely to make a huge amount of difference. And let me explain, because I know some people say, but OBJ! And I'm going to say, hold on a minute. Let me explain what I mean. Teams have all that tape now on the Cleveland Browns. Their scheme is no surprise. How they use their tight ends is no surprise. Their running game, no surprise. There are going to have to be some wrinkles, and with Stefanski, it is what it is. And he's going to use the players as he learned them last year's, the ones he gets back offensively, in the best way to accentuate them within his scheme. But there's been very little added. So I would think that the defenses of teams around the NFL have a slight advantage in the sense that they know what to expect. The good news for the Cleveland Browns is that from an offensive perspective, what we have is proven depth. We survived an abundance of injuries, and we have an abundance of wide receivers who contributed. They may not be the best wide receivers. They may not be we don't have Kelsey and we don't have Tyreek Hill, and there are going to be some examples of guys that our guys aren't as good as. But when they needed to step up, they stepped up. Offensive line, same thing. We have to understand that J.C. Treader is not going to be healthy for the rest of his life, and he has been playing like an Iron Man with hurts and pains for the majority of the seasons that he's been in Cleveland. But I feel better, and Browns fans should feel better about the fact that we have drafted and we have taken care of different positions. Our offensive line, some of these guys we get back from last year, our Swiss Army knife guy. Why is his name evading
Wyatt
me?
Teller?
No. He was rated PFF.
Nick Harris.
Phil Hubbard.
Chris Hubbard.
Yeah, Chris Hubbard. That's right. I mean, and he did an admirable job filling in, and he's going to be back. We got guys who actually had an opportunity to play, who weren't supposed to play, who got real-time game experience, and in important games at that. So I think, the heart of the whole offensive scheme is the offensive line. We have the running backs, and God only knows the running backs are good. The additions offensively, OBJ coming back to play, and we have Demetric Felton, who is going to be working out in multiple kinds of roles as a slot receiver, and mainly as probably a third down kind of guy. And of course, we have our top two running backs back. We hope Harrison Bryant will be further along at the tight end position. I don't know about Njoku. I have a feeling the wheels are going to come off Njoku because he's disappointed that he's not the man at that position and that it is a shared position. I think there's every reason to believe that Hooper should be better this year than last year, more familiar with the scheme, and come a little bit closer to the kind of productivity he had, elsewhere. He really was a little bit of a disappointment, but I think he's going to be an improvement for the Cleveland Browns. It's defensively that I want to warn Browns fans about week one. And we're going to take this week by week more quickly than I am the first week. The Kansas City Chiefs are going to hurt anybody from their offensive perspective, and any team's defense is going to suffer playing them. A defense that has never played together with a bunch of young players in a secondary may look as bad as last year's. They may make mistakes. There may be an ass whipping in the making. But again, we do not judge an entire season, as we found out, by week one. We have much better talent, way better talent than what we had last year. There's no question about that. Whether Joe Woods is the right guy for the job from the defensive coordination perspective, we're going to find that out. But honestly, the first week looks like too steep a hill for me. And we'll start with Brian. What do you think? Week one going into the Lions' Den.
I actually think that they'll be able to. They have a very good chance of stealing one in Kansas City.
All right, and Derek?
Usually, the first 2 or 3 weeks of the season, the defenses are usually ahead of the offenses. So that's why I say that.
And I think veteran defenses, that's the case. I think, the thing that's, Derek, I want to bring you in because we've seen this before. Justin Gilbert, remember when we had high expectations for Justin Gilbert in the secondary? You don't know really what you got until the games actually begin. What do you think, week one?
I think it's going to be better than a lot of people are going to expect. I don't expect us to win, but I expect us to be competitive. And I think the defense, it's going to be a good test because you're going into the Lions' Den, as you said, but you're going to figure it out quickly. I mean, this is not going to be a long guess here. I mean, by the first few plays, you're going to figure out how well these guys are working together. I think with John Johnson and Troy Hill having the connection they already do from LA, I think that's going to help a little bit as far as the veterans go. As far as Newsome, I think he's going to end up starting. That's going to be interesting to see. It's going to be interesting to see if they go primarily safeties or primarily corners against the Chiefs. That's what I'm kind of going to be paying attention to. As far as the offense, I think you're right, but I also expect them to introduce a few different things because last year they were figuring it out on the fly because they didn't really have a whole lot of time in person and whatnot. So now that they've had that and they have a few more additions and you know what guys like DPJ can do and potentially Harrison Bryant, I think you're going to see a few new wrinkles, but I think you're looking at a competitive game where you come up short, but you feel good at the end of the day.
And I think that we would accept that. I mean, it's not like that would be the most exciting thing that could happen. But one thing that we do know, we've had a few system coaches, and Marty Schottenheimer being a great example of a system guy. And it may have been irritating at the time for some Browns fans how he coached. Retigliano was more of an offensive-minded gambler guy, and Marty was the guy who only bet on the one hand, and that was the defensive side. He didn't usually bet on the offensive side of the ball.
Hey, Moo, real quick before I forget, I just want to throw in there as well. Keep an eye on Jedrick Wills. Last year he was getting thrown into the fire. Now he's had a bunch of time, full season and a full off season. I expect him to take a huge jump.
Yeah, and that is the advantage of depth and the hidden positive of the injuries that we had is that a lot of people hit the field, and our coaching staff has a lot of footage of guys and how they did in the time that they had out on the field. And they've had a year under their belt, an off season to really bone up on the offensive concept. Tony, what do you think? Week one.
Okay, week one. I could see the Browns pulling it out, to be honest with you. Mahomes coming off that injury. The Chiefs remember the Chiefs redid basically their entire offensive line. So there could be some struggles with that. Their defense is going to be elite. But I think the Browns have improved enough where they can slow down Mahomes, who's going to be healthy, and get enough pressure on him to where they could most likely win that game. Wouldn't surprise me.
Well, I mean, a lot of the press are saying that Cleveland has a legitimate chance of making it to the Super Bowl. Bronk, do you believe it?
Making it to the Super Bowl.
That's hype.
Every
That's
year.
mega hype. I mean, that's insane. I wouldn't say Super Bowl team, but
Ask me in December.
Yeah, what I do is I look at the big picture from something like last year and the ass whipping we took in the first week, and then the
We
second
took big
time.
ass whipping the year before. That was when we had Freddie Kitchens and we got OBJ and we got ass whipped by the fucking Titans.
oh yeah,
So are we going to
there
get
is the
ass
stigma.
wiped 3 years in a row?
There is the
Well-
stigma of the Browns taking a bath in the first fucking weekend to make that
Well,
damn.
but the thing is, when you're playing a team in your own division, you get to measure up. And we lost a second time to the Ravens, which is why I say the Ravens are the best team in our division until proven otherwise. And it took a lot for the Ravens to win that second game. And quite honestly, like so many other losses last year, the defense was the glaring weak spot. In week one, of course, it turned out that week one was not. It was an aberration as far as the offense was concerned, but not so much the defense. The defense just gave up points and gave up ground. So, Super Bowl is a matter of luck to me. Getting there is a matter of luck. And people who are Tom Brady fans will say bullshit to that. Well, getting into that one game, I think it's important. It's no different than having LeBron James in Game 7. You know that Tom Brady's going to have a steady game when he plays in a Super Bowl because he's been there and it's not going to really weigh on him too much. The Cleveland Browns still have a lot to prove. But, week one starts out and we are on the road. And then the next thing you know, we're back home and we have to play Steven's team, the Houston Texans, at home. And there should be no reason that the Browns aren't 1-1 after week 2. If the Browns are 0-2 after 2 weeks, you better start concerning yourself.
You're in trouble if you're 0-2 because that Texas team is not going to have Deshaun Watson. I mean, unless it magically comes out in the next couple of weeks that all these girls are lying, there's no fucking way that Deshaun Watson goes.
Yeah, and Houston it's not just Deshaun Watson. The Houston organization has been imploding, much like the Jets had imploded previously. We've seen this kind of implosion around the league. I think, I really think that there is going to be repercussions based on the Jaguars hiring Urban Meyer. I think that there are question marks about organizations, and the Texans are just on the downslope. And it's a shame what's happening to Deshaun Watson. I don't really know truth, not truth, or whatever. But man, it not only does it hurt his career, it absolutely destroys the Texans' chances of really doing anything meaningful at all in the season. It's an opportunity for the Browns to get their feet under them and, again, for the Browns to dominate an opponent as opposed to just barely pulling the fat out of the fire. Is there anybody on the panel who sees week 2 differently?
I think it's going to be a complete domination, and I know you just said that, but I think it's going to be an ugly, ugly, ugly game because I think this is the game you can flex your muscles as a defense. Some of this new talent, everybody's talking about the names. This is going to be really the chance, I think, especially for JOK. They can say, you know what, go do you, because you don't have anybody you really got to worry about in particular. And I think it's going to be really ugly. And I think you could say the same for the defense or the offense too. I think they're going to try some new things that they've added to the playbook in this game. And you might be going against Davis Mills or Tyrod Taylor. So it should be dominating.
Yeah, I guess You lose J.J. Watt and DeAndre Hopkins. Nothing good is happening there. The odds makers have them winning 4 games this year. That's 4-13 for people who are math challenged, and it doesn't look like coming to Cleveland unless something shocking happens in Week 1 and Baker Mayfield were to go down, something like that.
Oh God, don't say that.
No, I'm just saying, this is all early conjecture. I just don't see the Houston Texans being that big a deal. And the Browns come back with a back-to-back home Week 3 against the Bears. And, playing the Bears early might be a good thing. Is Justin Fields going to be playing there right off the get-go?
Oh yeah, 100%.
Well, according to the coach, it's going to be Andy Dalton to start the season.
Yeah, but
That's what my understanding was.
Coaches say shit like that, and then they realize that. I mean, we've all seen
But
Andy Dalton.
They're not-
that is the 3rd game of the season, so who knows by then?
They're not going to start Justin Fields because they're going to wait until they have an easy game. And I don't think Cleveland's going to be the game to start them against.
Yep, my experience is I remember, back when Bertie Kosar was a rookie and how long it took him, how many weeks before he trotted onto the field. You never know. I mean, the problem with playing a rookie early is that your backup veteran quarterback sucks the big donkey dick and you're not getting it done. And you rush somebody out there onto the field. I mean, I don't think anybody expects the Chicago Bears to be a big-time playoff contender. And I think the young quarterback should have his chance. And if I had my druthers, if I were a Bears fan, I'd say, play Dalton for, half the season or less, 6 games max, and then let the kid work his way in, because you put him out Week 1, somebody's going to destroy the young man. You don't want that. And God only knows he's fast and he's athletic, but boy, confidence.
Well, I just looked at the Bears' schedule. They play the Rams at home, and then they play the Bengals away, or the other way around. They play the Rams and the Bengals, and then they play the Browns. If they lose to the Rams and the Bengals with Andy Dalton, then you're definitely going to see Fields in that 3rd game.
Well, here's the problem with starting Fields so early. His problem is that he holds on to the ball. The Bears just added a lot of new offensive line pieces, so you can't just throw him in. With any other rookie quarterback, you pick that early, it'd be easy to say, yeah, we'll throw him in there. But he's got to really be adjusted before you can feel comfortable putting him in that starting role.
I got to be honest with everybody watching when it comes to the significance of the quarterback position. We know how important it is, but the game has changed. And Baker Mayfield comes out of Oklahoma with a gunslinger mentality, and people are comparing him to Brett Favre. And now, after 1 year of playing in a real rigid system, now people are saying, well, he's damn near robotic, and he's throwing to his outlets, he's throwing to his tight ends, and he's, But you see, in today's game, holding on to the football is a statistic now. Which quarterbacks hold the ball the longest, which ones get rid of the ball the soonest. And there's a damn good reason for that, because the longer Baker Mayfield holds on to the football, if you look at the statistics, the greater chance there's a bad outcome. And I refuse to believe that that's not the same way with Justin Fields or any young quarterback who's playing in the game today.
Well, I think it's mental with him, because I think because at Ohio State, he knew the guys he had a really good relationship with pretty much everybody. And he always knew, like, if you watch the back half of the season when Trey Sermon came into being who the Niners picked him to be, you could tell he always knew where he was at. There was a play in the Clemson game where he had guys in front of his face. He slid a little bit to the left and up, and he knew exactly where Sermon was. That's a mental thing. That's not something you just pick up on instantly. So I think for him, he's just got to get his connection down with these guys first, and then I think he'll be fine. But I think that's the main issue.
Well, to me, the main issue is the speed of the game. I mean, if you're able to hold on to the ball at the college level, that's one thing, and you can do a slide move and get the ball to an open running back. That's all well and good. In the professional game, I think it's a necessity that the scheme has to be intact and solid, and the quarterbacks and the receivers have to be on the same page. It's a lot to ask from a rookie quarterback, and especially a guy who was using the deep drop at Ohio State in order to open the field up so he could be a threat, as well as not just throwing the ball, but running the ball. That's dangerous business in the NFL. And I think that Baker Mayfield's a way better quarterback because of it. And Baker shouldn't have to feel that he has to go out and carry a team on his back. And the Bears' offense has been so miserable for such a long period of time. The tendency is for fans to expect a young, first-round pick quarterback is going to raise the level of everybody. And it doesn't work that way. It takes time. And, I'm not opting for Dalton because I'd rather have Timothy Dalton on the field. He does a wicked Shakespeare and a decent Bond. I really have no interest whatsoever in.
If he was any good, the Cowboys would have fucking kept him.
Yeah, well, Andy Dalton is Andy Dalton. He's a guy who never had a very big arm, and as he's gotten older, his mobility is diminished and his arm is slightly weaker than it was. And he's playing with teams that have really pretty rotten offensive lines. He's not escapable. He doesn't fit the mold of today's quarterback. You know what he's like? He's kind of like Sam Darnold, but without wheels. That model of quarterback is not the go-to in today's game. So I hope for Justin Fields' sake that he's not starting, in week 3, because that would be a very difficult thing. As far as the Bears have a good defense. So, if the Browns get on top of the Bears, it's going to be hard for the Bears to really put a lot of points on the board. And then you're also looking at the combination of Garrett and Clowney, and then all the defensive tackles, whoever ends up making the roster, just the wear down factor. Because you know that Stefanski, just as sure as Schottenheimer, like all system coaches, he is going to wear people down, and it's going to be the reason why I'm concerned about OBJ. OBJ is not a guy who you use to move the flags, to run over the middle of the field. He's a big strike, big play option, and it's a lull to sleep kind of thing. I mean, and quite honestly, we saw a DPJ do it during the course of the season, get behind people, just because the defensive back's eyes get locked in the backfield, and you're expecting something, and the next thing you know, something blows by you. The Bears can't afford to hold on to the ball too long with the Browns front, and if you're 2-1 going out of week 3, then people are going to be back to saying, now this is the Browns team that we thought we had. And then we go.
Well, and the naysayers will be saying they still picked on our sisters of the poor of the NFL. And it's like, well, you still got to beat the people who are in fucking front of you.
Yeah, that's the bottom line of the game is you bring your A game every week. And you know that there are going to be days where some teams are unbeatable. I mean, the day that we played the goddamn Raiders, they pushed us around like ugly redheaded stepchildren.
And the fucking Jets, too.
I mean,
we had no wide receivers for that game.
Yeah, but the Raiders at the time looked like the Browns were fighting for a playoff position and the Raiders were fighting for a playoff position coming out of that game. You'd have sworn that it was the Raiders that was the playoff team and not the Browns.
Well, they had beaten Kansas City like 2 weeks prior to that anyway, so the Raiders matched up well against certain teams, and we just happened to be one of them.
Yeah, I mean, and so you never know really what's going to happen. We go into Minnesota the following week, Tony.
That's our cupcake game.
Yeah, right. Please.
I don't believe that there's any such thing. I mean, obviously there is Stefanski's previous affiliation with the Minnesota Vikings, but being back on the road again, what are we looking at, Tony? What do you think the Browns are looking at?
42-10 win, I think.
Bronk, you can stop with that bit. You've been running with it for 4 fucking years and it's getting old. Get a new fucking bit.
What bit was that? I missed it.
The automatic hating on anything Minnesota.
Yeah, well, they obviously suck.
You're from Cleveland, buddy. Back off. But
I mean, really, I'm not being facetious, Tony. What is the story with the Vikings right now?
Well, we have Cousins and we have a young defense. We picked up Patrick Peterson in the offseason to shore up the second.
About that.
We lost a rookie who decided that it was fun to assault women for a living instead of play football. We beefed up the offensive line. We got Darisaw from Virginia Tech and Wyatt Davis from the Buckeyes. We have a future quarterback, hopefully. And we still have Jefferson, Thielen. We still have Dalvin Cook.
Right.
And we made some big signings in the offseason. We got Dalvin Tomlinson from the Giants, was a defensive tackle. Michael Pierce is coming back off of COVID. He was from the Ravens. Danielle Hunter is back and healthy. I think the Browns will beat us simply because I don't trust Kirk Cousins. But it's not going to be no fucking walk in the park. It's going to be a 7 to 3 point game.
I mean, this is obviously a tough game.
Especially when there's going to be 40, 50,000 people in U.S. Bank Stadium who haven't been able to go to a football game.
And that's the other part of things. I mean, I've said over and over, I thought that the Browns really benefited from the fact that stadiums were empty because learning a new system, not having noise interfering with the play calls and all of that stuff, and the raw emotion, the players having to really create their own adrenaline instead of really getting it from an external source makes a big difference. These road games are really going to be radically different because it's going to be more confrontational.
It's going to test the competency of Baker Mayfield, I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, I mean, and my feeling is that you go to Minnesota, and again, that finishes the first 4 off, and where do you want to be? Well, yeah, you want to be 3-1, and you don't care which 3 you beat, but realistically, it's not going to be the Kansas City Chiefs. If you're going at 2-2, then you start looking at what's coming up next in the next part of your schedule. And it starts away at the Chargers. And, I don't know, Herbert looked really good last year.
That's a tough game. I think the Chargers away, that could be either our first
Trap
or
game.
second loss.
I don't consider it a trap game. I think that Herbert proved that he can play with the big boys. The issue was he wasn't getting any time to throw the football, and he was playing a team that could not win a close game. I mean, Coach Lynn over there lost more close games than any head coach.
Chargers have been quietly building a team behind everyone's back. They're going to challenge the Chiefs for the division. I'm not going to say they're going to win that division, but they're going to be like a 11-6, 10-17. They're going to be a good team this year.
I'm looking at the Browns are looking to make a statement after the Chargers took a shot at the city of Cleveland. Did you see any of this?
No.
Who did?
Yeah, Brian will sort them out.
At least
I'm
we
just
have fans.
I'm watching something here. I could
The Chargers
share
took a
this,
shot
but,
at Cleveland.
But I guess there's. Wait, here we go. I want to see what they are saying about Cleveland.
Oh, for fuck's sake!
I'm waiting on this. I'm sorry,
They
folks.
made a they did a kind of remember the old video game Oregon Trail. They did a unscheduled thing. They did a Week 5 versus the Browns. The mistake.
Yeah, and I'm sitting here looking
Oh,
at this,
for fuck's
and
sake! Grow up,
Colin-
Cleveland.
grow up how?
You can't let this shit get to you. People have
It
been
isn't
making
that it
mistakes.
gets to you. It's stupid for a player for an organization to release something that calls the mistake on the lake and says that there's nothing that they have to do to prepare for the game. That's just billboard. That's board
Browns
material.
is the Browns. How'd that work out for you?
Yeah, I mean, not such a good idea because players have long memories and
Especially
you know.
the guys we got on our team. Do you see how pumped up Baker gets from this stupid stuff like this? Like you say, like I get what you're saying, don't let it get to you, but this is the kind of stuff that they thrive on. They thrive on these idiots on the TV and on the radio saying, "Oh, the Browns they're never going to be good. They're always going to suck. Baker's such a limited player." And then they go out on Sunday and he, throws 5 touchdowns and has a 80% completion percentage. This is what they live on. This is the stuff that they live on. And if people keep doing it, nobody's going to learn. So it's just going to be the same stuff every time, and the Browns are going to keep using it for their own gain.
It's why Mac Wilson isn't going to make the team this year. You can't shoot your mouth off and provide, locker room fodder for teams, and you're going to get ambushed. Teams are going to come in with a lot of extra vigor against you. And nothing against the Chargers. I think Herbert's a fine young quarterback, and they're a team on the rise. But they have not accomplished anything, and they should be taking every week of their schedule quite seriously, and not thinking that week 5 is a
maybe
week
not
off.
the Broncos.
Well, no, I mean, but we've seen it done before in Cleveland where we would go out and play a team really tough and that was a good team. And then, but we lose a close one and people say, well, we're ready to really win. And then we lay down against a team that's weak because we just didn't take them seriously. The thing that's funny about teams that are either A, badly coached, or B, are the types of players who are not all out team kind of guys, is that they don't play hard down to down, week to week. And the one thing I can say about the Cleveland Browns is that they played hard. Even if their defensive secondary was inept, I did not see people pulling up or, laying down. And when adversity came knocking at our door in the form of injuries and not having people to fill out the roster and having to bring people up who met team members the day before that the game was supposed to be played, team did damn well.
Or the day of.
Yeah.
Or the day of.
Yeah, I mean, that's a huge part of the game is your preparation for these things. And, again, teams that we've seen it often enough in Cleveland that you can't predict how a team is going to play if they give up in the middle of games. Once I see a team give up, that's what they are. That's who they are. That's their identity. And again, the Chargers by week 5, we don't know. They may be the surprise of the league, or they may be beaten down. You just
new head coach.
Well, they've got the Redskins and the Cowboys to play, to start off the year, so that should help them out a bit.
Yeah, it's
they're going to have a good record.
Then you're coming off the Chargers and you're going in against the Cardinals at home. Now, Brian, this is your team. The Cardinals, again, this is no easy chore.
No, they showed up to play against the Browns when the Browns came here. Of course, the team had quit by then on Freddie Kitchens, but still.
Yeah, and we see J.J. Watt up close and personal. Again, that game, again, you're at week 6. You would hope that after week 6, if you were 2-2, that you'd be 4-2, because at some point you have to start getting ahead of the curve. But none of these two games that we're talking about, the Chargers and the Cardinals, are locks for anybody. Then we're with the Broncos, and that's at home, and that should be a W, because the Broncos are, they hired a 30-year-old female executive, and that's supposed to be the greatest thing in the world.
It should be a W unless the rumors of Aaron Rodgers wanting out of Green Bay are true, and he somehow gets traded.
Oh, I just can't see that happening, Tony. I mean, look, I understand that there's a lot of posturing that goes on in the offseason, and that maybe Aaron Rodgers is disappointed.
I don't see it happening either, but I'm just saying if he does get traded, the two teams that are talked about are Denver and Las Vegas.
Well, what makes you think that owner is going to be able to pull it off? He hasn't been able to pull his dick, let alone pull off a move like that. I mean, that's been a disappointing organization, and that should be a win for the Browns. So week 7, you're going to either be 5-2 or 4-3. All right, and again, that these are just first observations, and it's a primetime game. So the Browns in primetime at home against the Broncos will be looking good in the neighborhood. Week 8, we got the Steelers at home. And look, if nothing else, the Steelers are going to come out with pride, because they just got their ass kicked against Cleveland in a way that should never have happened, in a way that was wholly ridiculous. And they are a team that is a real rival and a hated opponent. With that said, this is the Browns' opportunity to stomp them into the ground and bloody them. And at home, I don't see the Steelers beating the Browns in Cleveland. So week 8, now suddenly you're 6-2 or 5-3. Now your season's starting to shape up, because you're just about at the halfway mark. Anybody see the Steelers coming in and whipping the Browns?
No.
I don't think
Unless half the team is fucking keeled over and died, thanks to Bronx saying they're all going to die.
One of the things that was funny, it just came to my mind as I mentioned the Jacksonville Jaguars earlier, and wondering, they're talking about Etienne, the running back that they drafted, and that they want to make a hybrid out of him. Now, I mean, do you really draft a running back that high? And I'm looking at the size of his...
He's a project? They're going to draft him in the first round and make a project out of him?
He's a hybrid. They're going to say, well, we want him to catch passes out of the backfield. We want him to run. And it's like, nobody's doing that.
Christian McCaffrey, essentially.
But, it's foolishness. I mean, Nick Chubb is valuable getting the football, and, Etienne is supposed to be a guy who has the size to go through people, not just to be going around. He's a one-cut runner, a lot like Nick Chubb. Maybe not as talented, time will tell. But that's the way he does it. And if you don't think
like
that...
Trent Richardson, fucking Etienne. I don't know why he was drafted when he was drafted.
Well, I mean, this is going to be...
He's a great player, that's why.
Yeah, I mean, this is something that if you draft a running back in the first round, you damn well better put the ball in his hands. But I don't think that you use him like fucking Eric Metcalf. I mean, this whole notion of we're going to put him in,
but I remember when the Cowboys had Herschel Walker, they lined him up fucking everywhere. They split him out. They lined him. Went to a wing tight end position.
I don't remember him being a big time pass catcher, though, was he?
No.
I mean, the way they were talking is that Urban Meyer wants to use him.
He would average until he got to the Vikings. He would average on the Cowboys. He would average between 40 and 50 catches a year.
Yeah, I'd have to go.
He played with Dummy White. I mean, come on.
Yeah, well, I just thought that was interesting. Is that, I mean, and that talk about throwing a lot at a rookie. I mean, you're going to throw multiple packages at this guy, and you should be happy to have a running back in the first round who can get good, valuable yardage on first, second, or third down short. You want to keep him on the field. I understand you want to keep him on the field, but my goodness, I don't see him as a hybrid running back anyway. Next, we go away to the Cincinnati Bengals, and this ain't going to be easy. Anybody on the panel have any thoughts about the return of Joe Burrow?
Yeah, I hope he stays alive.
Yeah, that offensive line better be a lot improved, or he's going to get David Card right out of the fucking league.
Yeah, and thanks, Rick. That's a good stat. But again, I think, I don't know, I'd rather have him contesting the line of scrimmage than trying to sneak him around linebackers. And I don't know. I mean, I don't believe in Urban Meyer as an NFL coach. We saw Lou Holtz fail at it. How many college big-time coaches, Nick Saban, how many guys have we seen who have been big-time college coaches who took their shot in the NFL and just bombarderoed? Spurrier would definitely be one. Yeah, the genius boy. Yeah. I mean, it's a tough thing. Because
Nick Saban, if you're talking about lost, well, you got Nick Saban, right. Chip Kelly. I mean, he was a one-year wonder. There's 7 or 8 of them that
Jim Harbaugh.
I mean, if you take a look at the worst teams in football, and the Browns were one of them, and you look over the last, that
dumbass we got from fucking Miami, Davis.
Butch Davis.
Yeah, 7 to 8 years. The last 7 to 8 years that you look at the Cleveland Browns and you look at the bad coaching that we've had, the people who went away, the Pettins and the and the Shermers and the people who never would amount to anything. And you look bad as a coach when you have a lousy team in front of you. And the other thing is, if you're coming out of the college ranks and you're coming in with a rookie quarterback and your MO, which Urban Meyer's MO is literally to grab his head in pain because of all kinds of problems of stress. A guy who said he wanted to walk away from the game, and now he says he's invigorated, but he's going to a team that just doesn't win. And it's tough. It's real tough. And to turn that whole thing around, good luck. I look at all the teams, like the Dolphins would be a really good example. All the coaches they went through, and the Jets, the coaches they've gone through, and the Browns, the coaches they've gone through. The teams that consistently have losing records, the Bengals, what's his name? Zach Taylor. Is that his name?
Yep.
Their head coach. Yeah, I mean, here's a guy who they say, well, they should be an improved team now, but it's like, if year 3, the Bengals come out and they have another 5-12 kind of year or 6-11 year, Zach Taylor's gone. There isn't going to be another year of him. and somebody new will come on, and it just goes around and around like a fucking carousel. That's what happens in the NFL of really bad football teams.
But in the
Coaches-
same way that, but in the same way that the Indians are hampered by their ownership group, I would say Mike Brown hampers the Cincinnati Bengals in
no question.
having any fucking success whatsoever.
No question. I mean, it's the consistent thing. It's like I always used to say about the Browns. What is the common denominator? And the common denominator was the more we saw Jimmy Haslam, the worse we were. The less we see of him, which we don't see anything of him, thank God, the better we get. He knows shit about football. He's a thief, and he's not a quality guy. And he owned a company that was bigoted, and he ran a ripoff scheme on his own clients. You know, I don't want him.
Other than that, he's a great guy.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want him in the public eye. You know, I want qualified professionals running the organization, and he has no gut instinct. He has all the gut instinct of Richard Nixon in calling plays, you know? Don't want this shit. Week 10 is against the Patriots away, and boy, that's a tough game. You know, Aguilar is now a Patriot. Kendrick Bourne, these are wide receivers. Henry Anderson, the lineman. Montravius Adams, Dietrich Wise Jr., defensive backs, Cody Davis. I mean, there's a lot of integrated pieces that they got Matt Juden. They did a lot in the offseason.
Mac Jones could be starting by then.
Yeah, that's right. By week 10, I find it hard to believe that Cam Newton is going to win the confidence game in New England. I just I don't see it.
I don't think Cam Newton even makes the roster. I bet he gets cut.
I just don't see. I think he'll make the roster, but I think it's going to be pretty apparent if he's not ready to play. And Mac Jones, is trial by fire. But it will be fun to have a real head coach going up against Bill Belichick, and just to see how we come out of that. But again, after week 10, by then you're probably 7-3 or 6-4. But if you're 7-3, this is really good news, because you're coming back the following week to play the Lions at home, and
if you don't win that game, you might as well pack up the fucking season. The Lions are gonna suck.
I mean, the Browns could very easily be, after week 11, 8-3. It is entirely possible, or 7-4. These are real possibilities. And I don't think the Steelers or the Bengals are going to be there. And I think it's the Ravens who present the whole problem as to whether you get in because you win a division, or whether you try to slide in via, being one of the better teams, but not the best in your division. Lions,
the days of finishing 6th or even 7th and making it to the Super Bowl, I think, are finally over. You got to be in one of the first 2 seeds to make it through.
It's difficult. It's like a landmine, dodging landmines in a field.
I mean,
Then
you
the
can't
weirdness,
win 3 games on the road against quality opponents. No one can do it.
Unless you're really good and you're putting it together at the right time of the year. Week 12 and week 13 are the weirdest 2 weeks you can possibly have. You have an away game at the Baltimore Ravens on November 28th. That's an 8:20 p.m. game. And, another prime timer. And the Browns have had difficulty dealing, with Lamar Jackson. But week 13, we get rest. And that's a late bye. So, again, injuries can become a real problem. But here we go. We come right back at home against the Ravens again. So I've never seen a schedule where in back-to-back games we played the same opponent.
I don't know if it's ever happened. I don't think it ever has happened.
I mean, it's an unusual circumstance. And again, these are the types of things that, the Browns have to prove that they belong on the field with the Ravens and can beat them. It's the only way that in the future that they're going to assure themselves of playoff appearances is if they get on top of the Ravens. Because right now, the Bengals are still a couple of years away if they do everything right, which Mike Brown doesn't notoriously do, and the Steelers are a couple of years away because they're no closer to solving their quarterback riddle. Week 15 is the Raiders at home, and I don't fear the Raiders because we're going to be ready for them this time. We weren't ready for them last time.
These could all be weather games again.
Yeah, it's a matter.
Weather in October.
It's a matter if it's fucking 32 and hurricane winds out there.
If it's windy and rainy like it was last October when we played them.
Yeah, it became
the weather
a
was
trench
better
game.
later in the year than it was in October.
I mean, we played without Wyatt Teller, without Austin Hooper, without Jacob Phillips, again, by this time, the Browns defense, whatever it's going to be, and it's like I said to begin the show, we started out week 1, and we said, it'll get better, the defense. It never really did because it was confused and it was compromised by injury. There were all kinds of things. But by this time, you're looking at a real assessment of, I think by really halfway through the season, by week 8, you should be knowing whether your defense is for real and what values you actually got out of free agency and out of your draft.
Well, I don't think they even had the guys last year to perform the defense they were hoping to.
No way. They just wasn't the talent
Well,
there.
they never had a dime package because they didn't have a dime fucking quarterback.
Had no speed. There was no speed on the field, and and that's going to be changed. The question is, we don't have experience. The Raiders at home, I'm not so afraid of this, but the Ravens, you split. All right, so that means by week 16, if you can come back and get the Raiders after 15, weeks, you should be somewhere in the range of 10-5 or 9-6. Those are possibilities.
Well, the biggest change on defense this year is going to be John Johnson in the back of it instead of fucking Sendejo. What a difference that's going to make if he stays healthy and is calling plays like he did with the Rams. I mean, we've got a Lamar stopper there. We've got a fucking Kirk Cousins stopper there. We got a Chad Henne stopper there. I mean, as long as he stays healthy, it's such a big deal.
Could you pick 3 more quarterbacks on the spectrum? Wow, Jesus Christ. You went from elite to
They were all
to
people that hurt the
bad
Browns.
Henne. God damn.
They were all people that hurt the Browns on plays they shouldn't have done.
Well, week 16 is at the Packers. The weather, the team, going to be very difficult to win that football game. Christmas Day game at 4:30. The whole world's watching. That's going to be tough.
Lambeau's
I don't
a
think
hell,
Aaron Rodgers is gonna be
hell of a place
playing.
to play, too. You don't go to
Yeah.
Lambeau and win many games.
And then we finish up with the Steelers away, and that's one of
Oh, we
those.
still got the Bengals after that.
Yeah, you're right. We do.
17 games now.
17
That's right.
games. That's the stupidest
18
fucking
weeks.
thing ever.
Yeah. The Steelers away, their season's going to be over, but nothing they'd like to do more than to trip up the Browns. You kind of would hope that going into the final game against the Bengals, what is we're playing at home, and hopefully we're playing second and third stringers because we're gearing up for the playoffs. My best guess, before anything really goes down, 17 games, I'm going to put the Browns at 12-5 or 11-6. And is that good enough? 12-5 would be good enough to get you into the playoffs. Is it good enough to win the division? Again,
Only if they can manage to sweep the Ravens.
Yeah, we need to win 5 out of 6 division games.
and those
We
last 4
absolutely have to
games,
do it.
the last 4 games the Browns are playing in is not going to be a piece of cake. The Steelers and the Bengals are winnable games, but if you're forced to play your frontline people all the way through the 18th week of the season, then there's going to be difficulties. Some people are just going to drop like like a rock. With that said, the other improvement to the Browns offense allegedly is Anthony Schwartz. And I know that his belief that he's working out with,
Jarvis Landry.
that there's some osmosis that's going to take place. Problem is, the rookie weekend, he was already dropping passes. All right. I don't know if you heard that, Derek, but
Yeah, I heard it.
yeah,
Bad,
and-
allegedly.
yeah, and the fact is, he has a history of dropping passes in college. I just don't have guys who don't catch the ball well never learn how. I've never seen an example of a guy with bad hands getting better. Have you?
Jerry Rice.
He had great hands in college.
But he
led
had shitty hands.
What are you
He
He
talking-
had shitty hands when he first started with the 49ers. And he
Oh,
was on his
come
way-
on.
He fucking said it himself.
Mississippi
You gonna
Valley
listen to the
State.
goddamn guy? Or are you
The
gonna
guy was a
fucking-
first round draft pick out of Mississippi Valley State. He caught everything that came close to him. Goodness gracious. If you're dropping passes in college, though.
Well,
Holy
if this kid turns out to be Jerry Rice, a bow down.
Well, it's not the fact that he's dropping passes; he's dropping wide open, easy passes. That's the
right.
concern.
Not the
With
contact.
nobody
and
pressuring
space.
him, they're running
Right.
drills.
And that was actually what I heard coming out, because I talked about this. The report I heard was that they were throwing him easy passes and he was dropping them. And I did see one drill where they, you know how they have them big foam things? They're not hands, but whatever they are. But anyway, they use them to like bat the hands or the arms. Yeah. So I saw him running through that, and it was not pretty, but that's the
and then
concern.
Johnny Dixon follows him up and fucking handles the ball perfectly.
I know.
My feeling here.
Shout out to Johnny Dixon.
Hey, he
Well,
might make the team.
I have questions, real serious questions about Anthony Schwartz and the wisdom of drafting him. I know Derek does too.
And I keep getting killed over it. I don't know why. I think I've made myself clear, and I think my concerns are legitimate.
I remember when we got Little out of North Carolina, and we were going to convert him into some kind of a wide receiver and all this, and he had been a running back previously to that, and his weakness was he just didn't have good hands, and I can go all the way back to Willis Adams if you want to go way back in the Browns history, who never learned how to catch a football. There's been a whole series of them. Who was the guy who used to be able to get open at will for the Browns? And he, I think the same thing was true of Perryman, by the way. And I'm not seeing that he's lit the league on fire necessarily. He did better, than maybe what he did with some of his previous stops. But the rap on Perryman was that he could not catch the ball on a consistent level. I forget the guy's name. Who he could run a great pattern and do everything but finish the catch, and it's a problem. And
It's a lot of guys.
I just don't have the confidence because this guy doesn't even run a great pattern. I mean, let's be honest.
And that's the thing. Everybody's saying, well, all you need him to do is run your vertical routes and do that stuff. If you can't catch a wide open pass, you can't catch a wide open vertical route. I'm sorry. And people go to the highlights. That's great. But are your highlights going to show you dropping the wide open catches or your passes rather? I mean, it's simple. You can watch highlights all day long. It means nothing. It means nothing. Go watch his tape. There's sometimes on YouTube you can look up like, I don't know if it would come up, but you can look up like Anthony Schwartz versus Alabama and it'll show every play. Go watch that. Go watch that stuff and then come back to me.
Yeah.
Terrell Owens used to drop a lot of passes, so you could be a great receiver.
The thing that worries me about a third round pick like this is that it so defies the rest of the strategy of how we drafted. It almost seems like an idiot who owned a trucking company put the pressure on somebody
Well,
because
it was a bit like a John Dorsey pick when you picked Callaway, and it was like a throwback to like the John Dorsey area where he takes a flyer on something.
Yeah, but Callaway had first round talent. This guy was rated 6th round some places.
Quincy Morgan. Wow.
Quincy Morgan did have problems and continued to have problems, and
Dennis Northcutt dropped a few passes.
Yeah, drop cut. Yeah, and I remember Quincy Morgan having to, got his own jugs machine because he was, and it gets into your head, and it's all kinds of stuff. But that pick just is so different than strategically what the rest of our picks were that it's just unusual.
It's like them bringing in McDowell, the defensive tackle. It does not make sense for your culture. You built this standard. You want smart, accountable, hard workers. Then you bring in somebody like that who's got so much concerns. It just makes no sense.
Yeah, I mean, so I don't understand sometimes the way decisions are made. And I think we could have done better with a 3rd round pick than that, because if it turns out like I think and Derek thinks and others think that he's just a guy who runs straight down the field fast, you needed real help on your offense. You with your wide receiver core, you didn't need a guy who is feast or famine. You either get lucky or he.
Well, if he can't catch the football, then he's certainly not going to be a kick returner or a punt returner, which is ideally what you'd want to do with his speed.
Yeah, it's he can't catch the ball.
He can't catch the ball. He ain't going to be on special teams.
But, I'm high on the Browns. I think everybody's high on the Browns. I think that in the end, the offense has to be very disciplined, like it was last year. And the play calling has to be really meticulous to the strengths of the people who are on the field. We're going to have to rely on people like Rashard Higgins and people who are in DPJ, people who are already vested in the system, and work with what we have, and through scheme and through timing and the quarterback having familiarity with the receivers, that's going to have to carry us. That's, right now, and then the development of young defensive talent and getting a group of guys to play together who've never played together before.
Well, what's going to make this year's offense that much better is the defense getting them the ball further down the field.
You sure hope that's the case. Well, I got to get out of here. It's 7 minutes after 7.
Ooh,
and I appreciate.
Happy birthday to Moo. It's tomorrow here.
It is. Yeah, it is.
Your birthday here.
Yeah, I'm going to be 64 tomorrow, and
will they still love you when you're 64? That's the question. That's what Paul McCartney
wanted. There are days where I feel like I'm 82. As a matter of fact, I've started a new voice, and his name is Gramps. His name is Gramps. I'll do Gramps for you. Hi there, it's me, Gramps. How you doing? It's safe for me to.
Why does Graham sound like Bill Masters?
Because this is the way we speak. The difference is that Bill Masterson would have a much longer. Thanks a lot, Ron. I appreciate.
Can we have Peter Alice wishing you a happy birthday from heaven?
No, I can't do it from heaven because I dislodged my processor because it was acting up. And enough is enough. I can't be doing that. But the bottom line with Bill Masterson is you get a 10-minute story. With Gramps, I hurt. I was.
Am I wearing my underwear?
I was playing with little Timmy on my knee and nothing happened. And then I realized
this doesn't taste like Metamucil.
No. It was funny. Rox and I were talking about, remember the Jolly Green Giant?
Ho, ho, ho.
Yeah, I mean, he's been around, for God knows 50, 60 years. And I was thinking, he may not be very jolly anymore. So now it's like, from the Valley of the Jolly, my back. Yeah, Green Giant. Yeah. We were making up jingles that way because of Gramps.
Wow. Things are really happening in your household, aren't they?
Really are. I mean, it's we have fun and we make fun out of nothing, and that's the important thing. That's how things work in people's lives. If you can just make something out of Gramps. Thanks everybody for tuning into this edition of Moohead Radio. It's Monday, which means we'll be back Friday, and we'll be talking all kinds of sports. But it's
I thought we'd be talking all kinds of shit, but anyway.
no Cavaliers.
Thanks for stopping by, Key.
The Indians are back on a losing streak, and I wanted to talk Browns, damn it. And if that's the case, if the Indians are going to continue not scoring and playing, stupid baseball and unable to drive in runs, unable to elevate balls to drive in runs with one out and a man on third base, not going to talk about it. No time. I'd rather just talk about the what ifs of the one team that's doing things right. And I feel bad for Francona. Terry Francona is putting up with God knows what. So that's right, Bronk. Go Browns. Everybody, thanks for tuning in. I'll see you again on Friday. Until next time, hasta la vista, Pasture Heads. Good night.